Today, our guest is the author of the book, In the Blink of an Eye, a story of resilience and survival. Surviving the Unthinkable, a guide to overcoming trauma after a near-fatal accident. Discover how to navigate recovery and find hope in the midst of despair. Friends, please welcome Kaitlyn Daly.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Maria. Today's episode is incredibly special and deeply moving. We're joined by Kaitlyn Daly, author of In the Blink of an Eye, a story of resilience and survival. Her book takes us through a life-altering moment, a near-fatal accident, and the long emotional road to healing that followed. This isn't just a story about survival. It's about courage, motherhood, trauma, and finding light, even in the darkest moments. Kaitlyn, thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good as well. Now, let me take you back to who you were before the accident. Well, can you take us back? What did your life look like at that time?
So before the accident, I have one daughter. She's going to be 24. I had her very early. I had her at 16. So from early age, I kind of streamlined everything. I went to college while working and having her with the support of my parents, of course. So I was always a strong-willed from the get-go because I kind of had to be, and I didn't want to be like a statistic of a teen mom, not becoming anything. So it was me and her. Her father was not in her life with the help of my parents raising her. So it was me and her along the way. And I just kind of pushed through college and I became a nurse at 21 years old. And from there on out, it was just me and her and raising her and just showing her the way to be and how you can be independent and strong-willed and do everything from there. And at 21, I became a nurse. And I did ER and labor and delivery. And I was actually heading to work the morning. I was heading home to get ready for work the morning of the accident.
Okay. When you said your daughter is 24, I was gonna jump in and say, what? Because you look like 24 yourself.
I know. That's what I get from everybody when they're like, "Oh, do you have a child?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "How old?" I think they think that I'm gonna say 7, 8, and I'm like, "She'll be 24 in June."
I was gonna say 3 because you look really, really young. Anyway, what inspired you to finally put your story into words and share it to the world?
So from the get-go of the accident, obviously things happen. We don't have a reason. So I had a whole team of nurses and family and friends and everybody. Sorry, I'll cry at some point throughout. But I didn't have anybody to be like, hey, this happened to me and it does get better. I kind of did something this way and that helped me, or like through trial and error because you kind of have to figure out things on your own. So I said, you know what? As much as I don't like being in the spotlight, there's no way to write a book and not be in the spotlight. So I just kind of made it it's not for me, it's for the other person, like in the beginning of my recovery that I didn't have just to look to. So I kind of, it was like a little beacon of hopes for someone in the beginning. And I know my story is very tailored. Obviously, the grand story, it doesn't happen to most, but it's just trauma in all. Like whether they be a trauma victim from a different type of trauma, it kind of all resonates with people, little tricks along the way, and just to let them know that they're not alone.
Right. But without going into anything too overwhelming, and I don't want to make you really emotional, but can you share what you remember most vividly about that day in 2019?
Okay. I have absolutely no memory, which is a blessing in disguise, of that day. I just know my routine of what I did that day, and that's why I can kind of go down the timeline of what happened. I don't have a last memory that I can even pinpoint of that week. Apparently, I had worked the shift the night before. I have no recollection of that. So when I would work out, I would do a gym class that was an hour long, and I would do it before work. So or it was like half an hour. So that gym class was like 5:20 to 5:50. So it's about 10 minutes to get home. So I know I was on the way home from the gym to quickly take a shower, and then
Mm-hmm.
take my daughter to school because she was in her senior year, and I would go to class. So by 6 o'clock, I would usually be home to get in the shower, and I didn't make it home. And I am never late. If I'm late, I will call somebody. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter, because she needed a ride, she didn't drive at the time. I never made it home. So she tried calling my parents. My parents were asleep, of course. So she called a friend to bring her to my parents' house. And she was like, my mom never made it home. I think she forgot me and she went to work, which never happened. I never just forgot to take my daughter anywhere. So my dad said, let's drive the way home. She would have drove thinking I was just broke down on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And when they drove down the side that I would have come home, they came out on the accident scene, which thankfully I was already flown away. So what happened was I was driving home and I was probably about a half a mile from my house where four kids in a stolen car were actively running from the police. Now, the
Oh.
police had, because they entered a residential area, the police had backed off the chase, knowing it was going to be dangerous, but the
Mm-hmm.
teenagers kept going. They had done armed carjacking that day. That night, they had done robberies. So they T-boned me driver's side. They ran the light that I had the right of way of. They T-boned me driver's side, which sent my car spiraling. I believe it became airborne and it spiraled
Wow.
against another car in their driveway, and I
That bad.
became pinned driver's side.
Oh.
They then took off on foot, ran a couple blocks, and they armed carjacked a lady that was just getting in her car to go to work. And they left the scene of my accident. There were, I think it was a couple that was walking their dog that witnessed it, so they called 911. I was unconscious this whole time. I have no recollection of this, thankfully. They ended up having to cut me out of my car, and they, what we call, intubated me on scene, which is put a breathing tube down my throat because I was not able to breathe on my own, and then I was flown to my trauma facility.
Oh, that bad.
All before anybody knew until my parents came up on the crash, and then they kind of all figured it out.
Oh, okay. Oh, how did that moment change your perspective on life almost instantly?
So when I woke, I was on the breathing machine for about a week. When I woke up, there was everybody telling me the story, and with the head injury, it really didn't resonate. But that was the biggest thing after the accident was just the word perspective and just seeing things. So like until you go through certain things, you kind of you would think you would know how you would feel, but you really
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't like to equating it to losing a child because that's a horrible thing. But it's something like I would imagine every parent can imagine how they would feel, but until you do that, you really don't know. And it's kind of like this. Like it's not like it was just a broken leg. I had so many injuries and I had to learn how to walk and talk again. So it is perspective then and then now. Even now, I'll look at someone and I'll look a little different. I'm like, you don't know somebody's story. So like somebody could be looking lazy and look like they don't want to be doing something, but I try to give them the benefit of the doubt now because you just
Mm-hmm.
never know. I look perfectly healthy. No one would know anything, but I have so many issues and I take so many medications because of all the injuries. No
Mm-hmm.
one would have any clue just looking at me.
Oh, so you handled it pretty well on the outside. But how did you begin to process, the fear, anxiety, or even the anger after what happened?
It was a lot of trial. It was a lot of times I didn't even know what was happening. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's just like trying to figure out your emotions to it. And that was a little bit why I wrote the book to try to help people. So in the beginning, I think probably for like the first year or two, I justified why it was okay. So the directions of the kids were driving. There was a elementary school.
Okay.
It was before school hours, thank God. But if it was like an hour and a half later, there would have been like little kids going and
Yeah,
parents
yeah.
walking their kids to school. So I think in my brain, I justified that it was okay that it happened to
Oh.
me. And I think I did that for like the first year and a half to where I was just like, it just shouldn't have happened to anybody, let alone. So I would go through like denial. Like I knew what happened and I knew the life was going to be different. But then I would have to resonate with my brain. I would just have to say, no, it shouldn't have happened to you, to anybody else. And then you do get mad. And then I had to do the trial, which he showed no remorse. Like he got up and spoke, but his attorney had to tell him to turn towards the victims, to tell him things. So then there was anger with him, and there was a lot of emotions. He was the same age as my daughter, so I had to
Oh.
struggle with wanting, I think he was a year younger than my daughter, wanting a kid, because he was a child, to go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to struggle with that to be okay with him going to jail. And then it was you get the denial and the anger, and you go back and forth. And that was the biggest thing with the trauma. It's not linear. Like you don't just keep going forward. You go forward, you go back, you go side, side. So that's the hardest part with the trauma recovery is navigating the emotions. And everybody's is slightly different. Mine is not like a table that's gonna follow for everybody, but
Oh.
it's just navigating all those emotions, and it goes back and forth, and I still
Mm-hmm.
get to this day will do get it, like I'll get mad. I just try not to stay in that place because it only hurts my recovery and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do anything good.
Oh, okay. Now, what does resilience mean to you now after everything you've been through?
Just keep going, and I guess not being negative with it. Like, because you can be resilient and you can be mad. I choose to try not to at least stay mad. And the
Mm-hmm.
resilience is still every day because I still have my bad days. Like 3 years after the accident, I had a seizure from the head injury.
Oh.
A year after that, I was put on two different medications from one of my nervous systems not acting right, and that's from the head injury. So the resilience is still an ongoing thing because even though the accident will be 7 years in September, daily I deal with medical issues and it'll be lifelong because of the accident. So I have to be resilient to keep going forward just on a day-to-day basis. So it's just some days it's just getting up and smiling and it might not work and it's
Mm-hmm.
fine. It took me a long time to be okay with that. The limitations.
7 years, and still
Yeah. So
you're suffering all these. Well, the trauma is still there, obviously, and of course the
yeah.
physical thing. Oh, were there specific habits or routines or coping strategies that help you slowly rebuild your life?
So one of my favorite lines, because the, there's so many people, and I'm medical, and I'm a nurse, and I didn't even realize
Mm-hmm.
the depth of like one of my nervous systems and all that. So I just try to tell myself, especially because nobody can see my injuries, so like nobody
Mm-hmm.
would. I try to tell myself it's not their fault, like anybody else. It's not their fault. They don't understand what you're going through on a daily basis because you get frustrated with people you get frustrated with just explaining everything. And it's not fair to get frustrated because they don't understand because they're not going through it. So just little things like that, I'll say, you just educate them. Don't be mean, don't be nasty. Just I will tell myself on my bad days, which usually when I don't feel good, I'll give myself what I say a pity. I can get on the pity bus to
Mm-hmm.
like, because I have every right to feel bad for myself or to be mad or whatever, but I don't like to stay in that zone because it just hurts me. It just puts me in a funk. It doesn't do anything. So I try to come out of that and then I try to just focus on, all right, you went through the accident, you have horrible injuries, but you're here. I got to see my daughter graduate. I get to see my family still. I met my boyfriend. So I try to just kind of redo my perspective and just do it in more of a positive way than try to stay on the negative side, which I could if I wanted to, but it just hurts you.
Oh, okay. I want to go now to motherhood and identity. As a single mother, how did this experience impact your role as a parent?
So thankfully, I have fantastic family, and they really stood up because she was in her senior year of high school at the time. So her father is not in her life, and so it's been me, and then primarily my parents as a backup with my siblings helping. It was obviously Noelle. She's an only child, so she wasn't always around, but everything was centered around her because she was the only child. So when this happened in her senior year of high school, of course, which is supposed to be the fun spot,
Hmm.
I unfortunately almost passed away. So then I just tried to focus on her as much as I could because all the attention was on me and kind of off of her, which she did very well at, but I would just try to focus on her, and that was my goal. That was why I think I did so well in recovery, because or so much I pushed myself, because my goal was not, and that was my goal to get back to her. She was the reason that it was not an option to not get back to where I was, to not get back to working and driving and just being a mom to her.
So basically, she was the source of strength for your
Yeah,
recovery.
she was my driving force.
Now, aside from your family and your child, of course, and your parents, who or what became your biggest support system during your healing journey?
So many friends showed. I mean, I had friends obviously, but so many friends showed up for work. Like so many coworkers, and my mom tells me that I would joke in the hospital. I was like, I didn't even know all these people liked me. Like everybody just came out of anywhere. Like doctors, X-ray techs, like everybody. Like just I could have made a phone call to one of 20 people, and any of them before I was driving would have dropped it and helped. Like I had people that would just come out and bring me to work to say hi or just bring me out to lunch. There was no one single friend or one single person. Everybody came together.
Well, that's the positive side of it. You
Yeah,
then knew that you were so loved and or you are so loved, present.
thank you.
But as a nurse, you've cared for others, obviously. But how did it feel to suddenly be on the other side, like needing care yourself?
Oh, there's no preparing for that. It's not easy. Not easy just laying there. And I think the only reason I did as well as I did is because
Hmm.
I couldn't get up. Like it just wasn't an option. Like I think as they tell me, I would try to get any nurse to help me get out of bed before I was even allowed to walk. And I
Hmm.
think it was a head injury. I wasn't cleared. But I think if I was able to walk, if the injuries weren't so bad, I wouldn't have been as a great patient. Nurses were
Wow.
not the best patient. It's it's a lot to be on the opposite side of the bed, which has in fact helped me with the nurse because now I kind of know what some of the patients are going through where I didn't before.
So you
But
understand them
now
better.
I have exactly. So now I have that side of it and I kind of understand the little things. But it was a very tough thing to be on the other side.
All right. So writing about trauma can be incredibly difficult. I get that. But was there a part of the book that was especially hard for you to write?
I think I don't know if there was one specific part. I think it was just the sitting down. Like I go through this stuff in my head, obviously, since it happened, but I think it
Hmm.
was just the sitting down and writing it from the beginning to the end. And I chose chronological, so I would hopefully not miss anything. And I think it's just it was up to the accident, I think I did pretty good with, but once I got to the accident, I had to kind of take it back a little bit because those just writing it out on paper was quite a lot. Just the injuries, the whole going through the trial and everything in between was probably the hardest part of writing the book, just because it was just so much all at once,
But
emotion wise.
but was there a healing part of writing this book?
There was because I knew I was writing it for a purpose. It wasn't just to write like about me, it was for a reason and it was for someone else. So I think it did help with some type of closure to kind of that at least there was a purpose behind this.
Right. What would you say to someone who is currently going through trauma and feels like they might not make it through?
So, I mean, it does get better. And it's hard depending on their timeline of their trauma, because obviously, if they're like day two post whatever their trauma, me coming in saying it's going to get better, that's like saying at a funeral to someone it's going to get better. So it's very time sensitive too, I think. So, just like an overall would be the light does shine again, it does get better. It's just it's going to take time. And it's not straight line. Be prepared for bumps, but it does get better.
And if readers could take just one message from your book, what would that be? What would you want it to be?
To it the trauma doesn't define you. The trauma is a chapter in your book and you get to write the next one. So don't let the trauma define you.
Okay. How has your definition of hope evolved since the accident?
So well I found the love of my life after, with despite all the issues that I have, who does not, I mean, he didn't know me before, but he does not judge me if I'm having a good day, bad day. So hope is there's always a silver lining at the end, whether it be a job or a person or just you have closure of something. Don't lose hope just because of something bad has happened. Good things can still come after the bad.
And looking back now, do you see yourself differently than before the accident?
I do. In a lot, I mean, I'm different in general, but like in a lot of ways, it's a good different. Like I gained perspective. I've gained obviously different circumstances and which have led me to be more patient with certain things and it has changed me. As much as I said things wouldn't change me, it has changed me. I am driving again, but I still have like hesitancies with certain things and but overall I think I'm a better person.
Oh, that's good. And what does surviving mean to you versus truly living again?
So surviving, besides the living part, surviving is just not being caught, not being like in a corner and of a room that's closed off. Like surviving is actually going out and living despite what you went through. So I get in a car every day, like we all do.
Hmm.
For everybody, of course, it's a normal thing to do, but that was the thing that almost killed me. So I do better on some days than others, but I survived. So that was the one thing I told myself in the beginning. I'm not gonna not drive because I'm not gonna let them change how I live my life because of what they did to me. So driving was one of the things. So I told myself in the beginning, I will drive, and it will. And I have better days than others. There's some days that I'm a little more anxious than others, but it's little things like that, just not letting the trauma define how you live and getting out and actually enjoying the world despite whatever limitations you have.
Caitlin, thank you for your courage, your honesty, and for reminding us that even in life's most devastating moments, there is still room for healing, strength, and hope. And I want to ask, where can they get your book?
In my book, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and I have a script right here. It's an ebook, hardbook, or just a regular book, and it's called In the Blink of an Eye by Kaitlyn Daly. But Barnes and Noble, Amazon, I believe are the two places I know definitely have it.
Caitlin, thank you so much. Oh, I want to get that one day. To everyone listening, if today's episode resonated with you, please remember you are not alone in your journey. And as Caitlin has been saying, healing may not be linear, but every step forward matters, right, Caitlin?
Correct.
All right. Well, that's it. Thank you so much. And I hope to, well, talk to you again soon one day.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. This has been Maria. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to follow, share, and continue supporting stories that inspire and uplift.